What do you do when every choice feels wrong? But maybe every choice kind of feels right too? I sit with this a lot. I think there is this myth that there is a right answer, that there is a truth, there is a correct choice, there is a correct path. And when you are faced with multiple choices, multiple paths, sometimes both paths feel a little bit wrong, but they both still hold some sort of meaning or truth or rightness. And I know it seems so contradictory, and in some ways it is, but I think we create this amount of anxiety in our lives, assuming that there is always one choice, one path, one thing that is right and one thing that is wrong. We are so used to operating in our society, especially in American society, from this perspective of binary, of this or that, of either or, of black, of white. It is all around us. You see it in politics. You see it in relationships. You see it in choices around jobs and job decision. You see it in any decision we really make in our lives. I think one that's been especially on my mind lately is, as a family, we are considering moving. That is what we are talking about a lot of the time. And there is so much uncertainty in that. There is so much questioning and uncertainty. I want there to be a very clear answer. This is where you should move. This is what is best for your family. This is the place that you need to be. And yet that doesn't exist. When I think about staying where we're at or moving to a new city, a new state, I go, there is loss in both of those choices, right? For my example, there is loss if I stay here. I have lost many of my closest friends that are here. They have moved away. There is loss because this is not the place I necessarily want to raise my children. There is loss because this isn't the city and the state I want to be in for multiple reasons. But then if we move, of course there's loss because we're losing a wonderful place that does have a lot of wonderful relationships, that has a lot of wonderful memories. And with me, through work and other friendships and groups and church and all these things that I've been involved in, I've been here almost 10 years and I have so many relationships. Every time I go somewhere, I almost run into somebody that I know. And while they might not be my close inner circle, they are still meaningful relationships. And the loss of having those relationships near is great. My job is another loss. I don't necessarily want to stay here forever doing what I'm doing. I want it to change. I want it to flow. I want to grow with it. And yet leaving it still is a loss. I love it. I love the people I work with. I love what we do. And yet it's not where I want to be forever. So you think about decisions. You think about decision making. And how do you do that when there's so much uncertainty? How do you make a decision when there is the gray area, the gray, the messy middle, the in between, all of that we live in constantly? How do you make a decision? How do we do that? I think we fail ourselves when we tell ourselves that we will figure out the right decision, that we will figure out the correct path. When we think in that binary, we create so much more anxiety and fear and unknown and uncertainty. And a lot of times there isn't a right choice. There might be a right choice for right now, potentially, or maybe both options could be okay. They just would be different. As each of us moves in our journey of building our capacity, building our abilities to sit in the tension, to sit in the duality, to sit in the bothness. It's a double-edged sword. It's both, right? Because once you get there, you see the world differently and nothing is clean and clear and black and white. Everything is mixed up in the middle and you have to sift out what pieces you feel aligned with, what pieces you believe. It's a beautiful thing. I can't go back to seeing the world in the way that I used to. However, what then happens is when it's time to make a decision, because you now know the world doesn't operate in such a linear and clear black and white fashion, when it comes time to make a decision, it can feel confusing, it can feel overwhelming, it can feel heavy. because you no longer have this clear barometer for what you are looking for and what will tell you is the right decision. So the decision making can be way more difficult. But what I'm finding is the more I lean into that, the more peace I have, not certainty. And I want to be very clear that peace and certainty are not the same things. You can have certainty without peace, and you can have peace without certainty. It's great when those things can coexist, but they often don't. They aren't necessarily synonymous with one another. And so what I mean by that is I think we think that certainty equals peace. Certainty equals peace, but that is so not true. And the best example I can think of is this. I am certain one day I will die. I am not yet at peace with that. It is a certainty, and there is no peace with it. Not yet, for me at least. I know people get there. I know people work really hard to get there, to be in that space of acceptance and peace with our mortality and the end of life, but I'm not there, and I think most people aren't there. Another one might be failing. It is certain that you will fail in your life at many things over and over and over. And yet, I'm not at peace with that. I'm just not. I'm working toward it. I'm much more okay with it than I used to be, but my certainty about it does not create peace. And yet, we still somehow look at decision making and uncertainty as something that we don't want. And that if we were only certain that this was the right choice, we would be at peace, that we would feel good. And so the flip side of that is, how many times have you felt peace, but you have not been certain about something? Here's what I'll say. Maybe it's a job. I feel at peace with starting this new job. I feel at peace with hiring this person. I feel right about it. Something in my body and my gut tells me this feels right. This feels good. Does that mean I'm certain about it? No, absolutely not. Here's a great one, personal one for me. I have a podcast. I launched a podcast this year in the midst of doing everything else I'm doing in my life, in the midst of working a full-time job in nonprofit leadership, in the midst of having 3 kids, 6 and under, in the midst of considering some big life changes for our family. I decided to start a podcast. Did I feel peace about that? Yeah, I felt peace and fear and excitement and all the things and uncertainty. And I felt peace about it, and yet was I certain about it? Was I certain that it was the right thing to do? Was I certain that it would matter to anybody? Was I certain that it's going to take off and make me any money? No, I am not certain. And yet I'm pushing through. 20 episodes in, I am still going. And it's growing, and it is doing well, and I'm slowly and slowly building momentum. Does that mean I feel peace about it? Yeah. Does it mean I feel certainty about it? Nope. No clue. No clue what I'm supposed to do in 8 months. No clue. But I have peace about what I'm doing right now, and that's all that I can do. And so what I want you to ask yourself when you are thinking about decision making, when you are in the space of uncertainty, and you have to make a decision even with the uncertainty. There's a difference between being in a space that's just uncertain, and there's not necessarily a time-bound period where you have to come to a decision by. And that's a much slightly easier space to be in, because you can just allow yourself to sit with that and process it as long as you need to. And there might not necessarily need to be a wrapped up decision by the end of it. That's a bit easier to deal with for some people. Then there's a situation where you might have uncertainty and questions and you don't know, and you have to make a decision. In that moment, in those circumstances, what I want you to do is think about your values as opposed to the outcome of the situation. What do I mean by that? Let's take my podcast, for example. It's an easy one. I've already shared it. When I think about my podcast from the perspective of outcomes, I want a podcast. I want it to be successful. What does successful mean? I want it to have lots of listens. These are outcomes, right? I want it to have lots of listens, lots of shares. I want it to get popular. I want it to replace my salary so that I can do the thing that I love. Those are outcomes. I want it to grow each year. I want to get XYZ celebrities to come on and share their experience of bothness. Those are outcomes. When I focus on that, I get really anxious because it feels overwhelming. There's a lot of pressure. I'm like, oh, I want this to be the thing. And if it's not the thing, what am I going to do? And it's not wrong to think about outcomes. Like, we have to consider them. But when it comes time to making a decision, I can't stay in the outcomes. And instead, I have to redirect myself to go, what is most important to me at my core? What is most important to my value system? My example of podcasting, what are my values? To be authentic. Check. This space allows me to be authentic. My values are to speak up and to share and to be honest and to tell stories about what real life is like. And this tension and this craziness in the messy middle, that's a value to me. What else is a value? Increasing my capacity to do hard things is a value for me. Being honest is a value for me. Connecting with people is a value for me. Helping people, that's a value for me. Creating a space where people feel less alone, that's a value. Creating a space where we can talk about anything and everything without judgment and fear and open up about the messiness, that's a value for me. And so those things propel me to go, this is important for me. I'm going to choose to do it, even though I have zero certainty that it will do anything, that it will create any subscribers, that it will create any likes, that it will create any momentum for me to pursue something that is joyful for me and that helps others. So when you're in decision making, think about your values first instead of your outcomes. Outcomes come next, but start with your values. I want you to also think about, what will you regret not doing? At the end of your life, you're reflecting back, you are thinking about the decisions that you made in your life. What will you regret not doing? And how does that align or not align with your values? Also want you to think about what you consider failure. Is trying something and it not working a failure? Maybe. I would reframe that and say trying something and it not working out was you being really brave, and it gets you closer to figuring out what the thing is that you want to be doing, need to be doing. Because you can't figure out where you need to be or what you enjoy or what you like or what your passion is or what brings you joy unless you try things. And some things might not be the thing, and that's okay. Maybe you create a business and it's not successful. That sucks. That's really hard. But what did you learn? What did it tell you about what your next venture could be or what your next step in life could be? So think about how you view failure. Think about your values. Think about what you would regret when you get older. And the point through most of those things is that something can not work out, something can hurt, something can be hard, something can be uncertain, and it can still lead to growth. It can still lead to peace. It can still lead to authenticity. Failure, pain, grief, loss, uncertainty, all of that isn't necessarily negative. And in fact, it's a really important part of growing and stepping into this phase, the next phase of your life. I want you to think about those things this week, and I want you to shift your idea from certainty to courage, from certainty to bravery, from certainty towards peace and authenticity in your own life. You don't need the perfect answer. You need to be brave. You need to do the next right thing for you and let it unfold from there. Fall back to these questions as you get to the next step. What's my value? What is the next best right thing in this situation? What will I regret not doing? And how can I sit with all the conflicting thoughts and feelings and emotions and beliefs enough to get to the next right step for me in my life? Remember, it is okay to feel all the things, because so many times in life, it's not either or, it's both. Thank you so much for being here with me today and listening. Please subscribe. Please like this video and subscribe to hear more. I also have a podcast, if you're not familiar. It's called It's Both, Conversations on the Gray Areas of Life's Messy Moments. I drop episodes every Tuesday, and you can get them wherever you listen to your podcast. You can even watch them here on YouTube. I interview different people about their story and their experience with the tension and the bothness and the gray areas of life. So if there's a topic that you want to hear about, please reach out, send me a message, let me know, and comment below on what you'd like to hear. All right, see you next time.